She is a great parent. She has a son that will be going into 9th grade, a son that will be going into 3rd grade, and then a son will be going into 1st grade. And she was a major help in my classroom this past year with in my afternoon kindergarten class. So I don't talk very loud. Can you hear me well enough, or should I put on my microphone?
Microphone, please.
Okay. All right. I used to think that I talked loud until I started teaching school, and then I realized that I don't talk very loud at all. So, well, our assignment today is, what our theme is, uniting the Christian home and the Christian classroom. And I've kind of like to pull that out a little bit more, and the question that I have for us is, how can the school and the home work together to make the educating of the heart and mind of students more effective? Now, as a parent here, we're just finishing my 5th year as a parent, so I am also a parent. My children, I have twins that will be going into 7th grade. And they started here in 1st grade, so we did 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and then I was teaching while they were in 3rd grade and 4th grade, and then I had to take a year off for some personal reasons, and then was back teaching this year. And so I understand as a parent kind of the stresses that we have in our daily life, and I understand sometimes as a parent that there may be a disconnect between the classroom and the home. And I really would love this to be a time that we can spend the next 40-45 minutes really talking about how we can help both places, how we can make this a much better environment that's like this instead of like this. And so I put some things up on the board. So at school, these are some things that we do. These are not all inclusive, but I was just trying to think as we're talking about education. So one thing that I do as a teacher at school is I provide newsletters to parents. We also communicate with parents via email, phone calls, in person, things like that. We work on memorizations, and I can speak really well about kindergarten. 1st and 2nd, I know as a parent, but I can really only speak for kindergarten here. But we work a lot on memorizations in kindergarten. We do, what is it, 17 or 18 memorizations a year, which is a lot. And one of those is Psalm 100, which is about this long. And you look at that as a parent and you think there is no way in the world my little 5- and 6-year-old is going to memorize that. Well, we do that around Christmas time for our kindergarten devotional, and then at the end of the year, when we were finished with our memorizations, I would ask my morning or afternoon helper and say, okay, which memorization should we do today? And they'd want to do Psalm 100, and they'd still have that all memorized. So even little children can do these memorizations. Lessons in school, obviously we teach all lessons and all subjects. We have notebooks, and I can pass around, especially for those of you that are new to school. This is kind of just a master binder that I've put together of some of the things that we do in kindergarten. We do 4Ring in all grades, even in kindergarten. It will look very different in kindergarten. As your child gets older, it's going to look very different as the years go on. Character development, very, very important to me as a parent and as a teacher. And this is a no order of preference, of what's most important or not most important. And I also feel like at school, one of the most important things that we need to do is show love and positive reinforcement to children. I don't know how many of you have had a horrible experience at school when you were a student. I did. In 9th grade, I loved English at that time, and we were having a writing subject. Well, I grew up in California, not the greatest of school systems, and my teacher disliked very, very strongly LDS students. Just completely disliked us, and she was very open about that. And I wrote a poem that I slaved over and thought it was so great, and I turned it in and was so excited to get it back. When I got it back in a way I never imagined I would ever get. She stood up in front of the classroom and said, "This is the worst piece of poetry I've ever, ever, ever heard in my life." And she read it to the class, and I was completely humiliated. And just never, ever, ever want to have anyone ever experience that in their life. And at that point, I stopped English, and I went into journalism, which helped me in my further professional life. But, that's really strong, those important core years of when that really helps you in your college, it was something that I had to make up when I got to college at BYU. And so this to me might be number one on the list for me, of love and positive reinforcement. Because if a child feels love in the classroom and they're getting positive reinforcement regardless of what level that they're on, even if they have the worst penmanship in the world, you can always find one positive thing to say about that, which that child's going to think they are so amazing and so great that all these other things are going to be a piece of cake for them. So, and then at the home, some things that I picked out, we do a lot more at home, I know, but as they relate to school, homework. And I think sometimes that's where we feel the greatest disconnect with teachers is homework, and where I think we need to communicate probably a little bit better. Especially in the younger grades, we're talking about math, we're talking about spelling, we're talking about reading. Memorizations is something that the home can really be helping the classroom, and we also can be helping the home with that. Character development is still as important at home as it is at school. Communicating with teachers and administration on the needs of your family and your children, and then again that love and positive reinforcement. So I'm going to turn the time over to Christy for just a minute so she can now introduce herself, and then let's start talking about what you envision and what you hope and what you want to see or what you've experienced, especially for our parents that have been here already. What are some things that we can do better at school or better in the home? And if I have someone that's willing to take notes, because I'd love to share anything great that comes out of that with the other teachers as well, so that hopefully others would be interested in implementing in their classrooms as well. So,
great. Hey, first of all, Ms. Morrill is an amazing communicator. She makes it easy to work with as parents, and your expectations of what you should be doing with your child at home are very clear. She does newsletters both through email, and then she sends a hard copy at home with your child, which is nice because it has the words that they're learning for the week and what they're doing in devotional and every kind of an outline of what's going on at home that comes home in your folder. So I would just pull those out, put them on the counter so that they don't always come home marked like the teacher is teaching, so then you can emphasize at home what's being taught in the classroom, and it's just another way to be on the same page with your child's teacher. And I think everyone at the school is really great at communicating and allowing the parent to be an active part of their child's education. I know that we moved here from Chicago, and my oldest was in 4th grade at the time, and I loved the school where he was attending in Chicago, and I didn't know if he would be ahead, behind, or where we would kind of be moving to a new state and a new school. And we did not start at American Heritage. When we moved here, we did something else, and I talked to my son's teacher a lot, and she made the comment to me that it was so refreshing to have a parent who wanted to be involved. That a lot of parents would get mad just if you were given homework with your child, and that was really surprising to me because I wanted to find a school that would allow me to be a part of my child's education. That's a pretty important thing to hand over to someone else. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to have that relationship with teachers. I wanted to know what they were doing. I wanted to emphasize that at home. So American Heritage for our family, and with all of the teachers that we've had, they've made it so easy to be involved and to really reinforce what's learning here at home, which I think makes it so much more effective, and you get to learn some pretty cool things as a parent too. So my kindergartner that had Miss Morrill was not able to go to preschool. He had some health issues that he was not able to even go to a day of preschool. So I was worried about him coming to this intense school and it being his first experience, but I mean, the love and positive reinforcement has been so helpful for him, and being able to work as a team with Ms. Morrill has made our unique situation a success, and it's been a positive experience. He's loved learning. It's been really great, so I'm grateful for that, and that we're allowed as parents here to be able to shouldn't be your job, my job. It's all, we all have the interest of the child in mind, and I love that. So, anyway.
Great, thank you. How many of you, I know Mrs. Newman-Schlanders moved here from out of state, and obviously you're moving from out of state. How many of you have come from out of state from other educational systems and stuff? All right. And so the perspective that we bring is great because we have people that are here, people that are just having brand new kindergarten students that this is your first exposure to school, to American Heritage. And then we have others that have come from other schools, other school districts in the state, as well as out of state as well. So is there anyone that feels comfortable just taking notes? Anyone volunteer? Would you do? Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll put my other notes down and take your notes.
So kind of with that introduction, what's the most important thing that you need to know? How can we unite these two together? Because what she said is so important. It's like a stool. We've got a three-legged stool. Mrs. Strong has a great three-legged stool. I should have grabbed that. But an experience that I've had with my children a year that we weren't here is it was a two-legged stool. And it was very frustrating as a parent to send your child off to school and have a two-legged school where the teacher never wanted to communicate with me as a parent and would never provide information to my children in written form of what their assignments were. And so every time I tried to talk to the teacher would tell me, well, ask your students, I've already told them that. And I understand as a parent when you feel like there's not this cohesiveness because you are your greatest child's advocate. You are the parent. You are in charge and you know what's best for your child. And education cannot be the same, I feel, tailored for every child. One way that a child learns may be completely different from another child. And so as teachers, we try our best to try to teach everybody, but you as parents may have to do some supplementing at home. But whether it's because they're a gifted child or because maybe they're a little bit behind. And so what can we do to unite the school and the home better? What are some things that you've seen, some things that you've maybe have heard that you think would be great to try from your experience, things that have worked? And this is being you're a parent too, so.
Well, actually, we've, my oldest son started here 12 years ago, and we transitioned him at 9th grade because back then the school didn't go all the way through. So, but that was the pull of us coming here as a family was we get to be the bottom line of what our kids learn. And it wasn't up to the schools on what they were teaching. But then we got this wonderful blessing that we got to hear the gospel being taught right along with this beautiful curriculum. So we did. We had my oldest son. We got to supplement at home. He was beyond where they were for math, so I would teach and supplement at home. And then my youngest daughter, she struggles, and we find other ways to keep her caught up with her group. So the school really kind of meets the child where they are and allows the parents and the families to supplement. So.
I think, especially for those of you new to the school and are starting with kindergarten, everything is so unique and specific. The Riggs reading program is very specific. The markings that they learn, the way that they do vocabulary. Last year they had training for parents in that program. Do you know if we're going to do that this year?
Yes.
We are. We are. Okay. I would strongly encourage parents to go to that training and to be in the classroom, because just being in here, seeing how the day works, and not just once, but being here regularly, seeing how the homework is checked, what's expected to come back, what stays at home, what is expected of the child here. Then as you're doing these things at home, you're doing it the same way that it's taught in class, and that's really helpful. Like Miss Morrill had said, one of the phonograms that they learn is her least favorite phonogram.
I can sometimes say it correctly.
Yeah, and so with Matthew, my son, I could reinforce that at home, just those fun little things that they learn to learn it at school. We're not making up our own at home, things that apply to me personally, but I'm able to draw from some of the things that are used here, and it just is that much more effective, I think, at home.
And for parents you're coming and your child is entering kindergarten, so they're obviously your oldest child and you've got younger ones at home, it would be really beneficial to find someone else that you could trade babysitting with, that you could say, okay, this week, I'm going to go into the classroom on Tuesdays and Thursdays so I can really get a good feel of what's going on with spelling, with the RIGS program, with math, things like that. And then next week, why don't you go in and I'll babysit and you go in and do that as well. The more that you can be in the classroom, she's right, the greater things are going to work at home for you. And then the less, I think, frustration that you're probably going to feel as a parent, because it is so very different than anything that you've seen. Coming into at least a kindergarten classroom here is very, very different than going into a kindergarten classroom elsewhere. This is real school. And I wish my children would have started here in kindergarten. We didn't learn about the school until kindergarten was almost over. And I remember our first walking into school the first time, and Mr. Beckwith back then used to give the tours of the school, and my husband and I were like, we finally found what we were looking for. We had been searching and searching of the right place, and as soon as we walked in the door, we knew we were at the right place for our family. And so really being a part of the classroom is a really big deal. And I can't speak for every other teacher, but I can speak for myself. I have a very open door policy, and I would say probably with confidence that almost every single teacher at the school is that way, especially in the elementary school, because the more that the parents can come in and participate in what we're doing, the greater it is at your home. I've had instances where parents have said to me, it's such a struggle. My student comes home and my child comes home and they just don't want to do homework. They just fight me and fight me and fight me. And Mrs. Morrill turns that around in class the next day. If I hear from a parent saying that child's fighting their parent on doing homework, we have to have a little discussion in classroom of, one, do we fight our parents on doing homework, and why don't we fight our parents on doing homework? And letting the children know that the more that they fight their parents on doing homework, that less fun time that you've taken away from yourself now, and hearing it from someone other than a parent kind of really helps that situation go from stressful up here to not so stressful down here. So thank you to parents that communicate to us, because then we can address that to the students.
That's definitely been a big concern for me. Obviously, my son's not here, so our experience isn't based on anything from here. But like, my son excels a lot at school, but he's also very intense, and so he needs like downtime and family time. And I have felt very overwhelmed with like the amount of homework. He's in an all-day kindergarten program, and then the amount of homework that he has. I just think, well, he's young too, right? He needs 12 hours of sleep, and so finding like I have felt resistance with how much is coming home when he's so little, but yet I want to be a parent that's like teaching him at home and things like that. So I just wonder, maybe like, do you have a goal as a teacher, like for the amount of time that it should take? Do you have homework every night? Like, how does that?
Well, at our school, and those are great questions. So at our school, homework in kindergarten is Monday through Thursday. And we don't send home if we have a Friday, because we'll have 2 in-service Fridays a month, so we will not be at school. Students will not be at school. Teachers will be at school those days. And so when they're at school on Friday in kindergarten, there's no homework that goes home with them. So their homework is only Monday through Thursday. And what we expect is there's usually one math sheet and spelling words, which usually it's 2 spelling words a day, and they have to write them 5 times each with their markings. And then if they've missed any spelling words on their test, let's say they've missed 2 spelling words, we'll have them also practice writing those words again as well. If they missed, like, let's say 4 spelling words, we're not going to have them rewrite all 4 of those. With max words that we want to give them a day is 4, so that it's manageable. And I can tell you, as a teacher in my classroom, when they get down and have finally figured out what we're doing, because it takes a good couple of months for this program for them to understand the process that we're going through. I mean, we practice all of those new words 5 times each on the back of our paper, and then we send it home with the markings for you, so that you know exactly what needs to be marked on the front. And that can be done in 5 to 10 minutes, and that's on the long end of things. And so, and the math papers, there's a fact paper that we'll do one day, and we practice on the front side in class, and on the back side it comes home, almost the same exact thing. And then the other one's a guided class practice, so there'll be questions, and we'll do it together in class, and on the back side it's the same exact thing. And so students that I find that are fighting their parents are just kind of in that mode of needing to play for a little bit, because I have not found this year that I have had any students that have struggled in the classroom that should be struggling at home. And so if they struggle in the classroom, it would probably take them a little bit longer. But I would say a total max of a half hour, and that even could include some of the reading time as well.
So do you think that, I mean, obviously we can't speak to the other teachers, but going first in the upper grade levels, does that get to be more, more time?
In first grade, so in kindergarten, we do first grade math up to a certain point, and we do spelling. In first grade, we're really prepping them to be able to succeed in first grade. In first grade, they will, instead of doing 4 words a day, they can do,
I think it's 10.
yeah, up to 10.
Five.
I have to ask
Five.
Cynthia because she's got a
It's
first
five.
grader.
It's
Oh, 6 new words a day, is that what it was?
6, yeah.
Yeah, so 6
Six
new words a day, and then by second grade, it's up to 10 new words.
But when they
a day,
do that
right?
with the RIGS program, they'll give them 6 new words a day, but they test them 5 days before those words fall off the list. Does that make sense? So they're giving them that many opportunities to
To really get
master
it
it.
down.
Yeah.
And these are their individual words, or the whole class is on the same
The
word?
whole class is on the same.
So what do
words.
you do with kids like, so here's my problem, which I never thought would be a problem as a parent. So my son is tested for like almost 5th grade, reading level, spelling, everything. So he's going into 2nd grade. So what do they do? How do you work with kids like him?
Well, and that's really great. And what grade is he going into?
2nd, and he's
Second
only
grade.
going to be 6 when he starts. So he's really young, and we just don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
I never thought it would be hard to have a smart
And
kid.
you know what? It is very
It's
hard.
hard.
It's hard. Because I have one that's like that, and it is very hard. And so you as a parent need to find other things that you can supplement. You know, for instance, with my son, you know, we send him to math camps during the summer, or we, you know, go to higher level math at home, or, you know, he loves geography, and so we're constantly buying atlases, and you've just got to keep that child's mind stimulated all the time. But one thing to know is, even in kindergarten, I had a couple of students at the end of the year that were testing 4th grade reading level at the end of kindergarten. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. And then that's not because of me. So I want you to know that. And they came in very bright at the beginning, and they bumped up quite a bit. But you as a parent, this is your child, and you've got to keep them going. Because in kindergarten, whether they come in reading or not, we're still putting them through the RIGS program because we're trying to teach them rules for spelling, which is going to help them with their spelling as well, and help them with their reading further on as well. And so just because we have a reader coming in, everyone's still starting down at the same area. But it's interesting, even those that come in very bright, they stay bright and they keep moving up at the level that they go. So I had one student this year, I had one student this year that tested at the same reading level at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. I can tell you why. One, the student brought their reading book in to read with us twice. So we know that reading was not happening at home. This is a very, very, very bright student, very, very bright student, but it broke my heart that the parent wasn't involved enough to have him read at home. Bring that in, let us read with him here as well, so that we can help advance him to where he needed to go. It breaks your heart as a teacher, but I can't control what goes on in our home. And so that's so important for you as parents to do those things that are going to help your child, because we all want our children to succeed. We want them to be the best that they can be, and we do the best we can at school, but we're all a team together. And so really what you do at home is so very, very important. Sorry, Mrs. Bingham.
No, I was just going to share that for your students that are more accelerated, in first grade, 2nd grade, and some of the higher grades, they break them into different spelling groups. So when my daughter was in 1st grade this last year, they had 3 different spelling groups. So the teacher would say, Group A, your word is blah, blah, blah. Group B, and she give them time to get Group B, this is your word. And she just makes sure the group is there. Well, there was some kids that might have been on list 3. Riggs has spelling lists that they go through. And then, like your child, there were some that were on list 12 on the others. So at the beginning of the year, they'll assess. They'll go through the list until they find, okay, this is about where the class is, and then I've got a few here on this end, a few on this end. And the teachers are really good about finding how we can meet these accelerated students also. So.
Teachers are really good too with camouflaging that. The
Yes.
students have no idea why. They just think, oh, that's their list, this is our list, you know. So it's not, they never feel, because my first grader was the same way, and he never knew why there were different groups. He never felt like he was ahead or behind or whatever. So the teachers are really great at being able to figure out who's where and being able to give them words accordingly that are challenging enough but are not stretching those that may be a little bit more behind in the class to keep up. So I thought it was really amazing to watch how they're able to do that.
And that's outside of kindergarten. Kindergarten,
Right.
we're just making sure that we're giving very solid foundation, which is our goal, because things do move pretty quickly around here. And that kind of brings to that character development. I had a couple of very, very sharp students this year, and over a period of 2 days, I'd hear, oh, this is so easy. Oh, this is so easy. And I had a discussion with the parents because I wanted them to know what was coming out of their children's mouth. And then we sat down and talked with the students together and explained to these students that I am so glad it's easy for them. They are so lucky that Heavenly Father has blessed them with such a beautiful mind. But you have to realize that some of your friends in your class, this is not easy for them. And so do we want to be hurting our friends' feelings by always saying, oh, this is so easy? And they were like, no, they didn't want to hurt someone's friend. They hurt their friends' hearts and make them sad. And so after having that discussion with the parent and the student, it ended. It stopped. Never heard it out of their mouth again. And they were then also able to learn to love in a different way their classmates as well, and realize that, I have a special gift that Heavenly Father gave me, and I can share that gift by, in certain ways as well. So, I don't know, character development, huge. I am also a large proponent that, especially when children come into my classroom, I can't control what's said at home, what words are said at home that are okay. But in my classroom, they come in, if they say something that I feel is not a nice word. For instance, in my home, we do not say the word stupid. It is not allowed. My children that are going into 7th grade will say, Mom, those people said that that's good. And I'm like, honey, we can't control what other people do, but in their minds, that is a really bad word in my home. It's not a word that uplifts. It's not a word that is happy. It's a word that drags you down. And I have a sibling that word was used. It took me many years to have children, and so I observed a lot of people with children, especially my sister and her children, and that was a word that was spoken in their home in almost every sentence. And it would break my heart to see the contention in that home. And to see where my nieces and nephews are at today, it breaks my heart. And so I'm a very firm believer that we need to have language, especially in my classroom, that's going to uplift. Because if we can do that, then the spirit is going to be stronger in our classroom, and we're going to be able to be kinder to each other as well. And so, I personally may have stronger standards than people may have at home, but I think that's okay, because then it's a free and a clean environment for everybody to participate in. So
that reminds me of something. So my son was in 1st grade. So I would say a big frustration that I have as a parent is, especially when the kids are that young, you only get part of the story. So as a mom, if I knew that you had your special words, I would think like, oh, that's something we can improve on at home. That's a good idea. We could jump on that bandwagon. But then how would I know about it? So I felt like sometimes my son would come home with things and he'd say, well, we don't do this at school, or we do this, or just different things where I'd think, oh, I wish the teacher would tell us, because we could jump on board with that, but you don't know
And-
quite how
yeah.
to learn about it. So.
Yeah, and those things are really difficult to communicate, and that's where I would say being in the classroom
Yeah.
is probably the greatest learning thing that you can do, because it really makes a huge, huge difference. In first grade, when my children, because I have twins, they were in I worked out that they were in separate classrooms, and so I would divide my time, and because they were my only two children, divide my time, between both classrooms, because every teacher is different. Their personality is different. The way that they lead their classroom is different. Even though the curriculum is exactly the same, the teacher brings their own thing to it. And so you really need to be in the classroom and develop that really great relationship with your teacher. It's sad as a teacher when the only time you see a parent is at parent-teacher conference. That's really hard. But when you have a parent that's here weekly, even if it's for a half hour, there are great things that can be said all year round, and then as a parent, you're seeing and you're feeling what's going on in the classroom. So
I was just going to say, I did at our school, well, I'm lucky because my husband would watch my baby during his nap, so I could volunteer once a week. And I found that there were a lot of times where I could ask questions that maybe I felt stupid emailing because it seemed really not that important, or I didn't even know how to say it in a sentence, but that because I was there, it was easier to say, can I just ask you about this or whatever. So.
And there, as for a teacher, there are no bad questions to ask. Don't ever feel bad about asking, even if you think, okay, I should know the answer to this, but I have no idea. It's better to ask and know right up front. So, yes, Ms. Wheeler.
With all of this discussion, which has been wonderful, the relationship that you have up there between school and home is so invaluable. As a former teacher here, my favorite thing, like you say, is to have a parent come into my classroom and see what we're doing. Because you can't explain it even over the phone, and you can't explain it in email. And I know that's what you would prefer. But now that I have a daughter and grandkids here, my daughter used to work in the kindergarten classroom every week with her kindergartner, and I would keep the other ones. But she said that she learned more about her child and about her education, about everything in the school, because she said, Mom, if I would have just looked at what was coming home in their homework folder, she said, I wouldn't have known how to do it. I wouldn't have understood the process. And then she did an hour a week, and just correcting homework, do whatever the teacher has for you to do. It is invaluable time for your child. And then when she was in first grade, which is a full day program, and the phonograms are a little bit more involved, and the math is a little more involved, she again did it for an hour a week. And she just said it laid a foundation for their family that needed to be laid. And so then when the kids came home with homework, like when she had her kindergartner this year, it was so much easier to understand the school-home connection, the work that the child is doing, and she just says she wouldn't have been able to do it had she not been here. To lay that foundation.
Well, and Chrissy's, you could speak on that very well with having a child that was here in kindergarten without having any preschool whatsoever. So this was his first experience with school was kindergarten, which is like, oh, but because she was here, he had a fabulous year,
Well, and I will say, I was here a couple times a week, and then I had back surgery towards the end of the year, so I wasn't able to come. And when I came back after that experience, I had people helping with homework that weren't me, who had gone to the training, been in the classroom. I was so surprised to see, because the other thing that it teaches you is, okay, how is he doing? We're doing this homework sheet, but I'm not seeing how he's doing in class or what behaviors he's having that we can maybe talk about at home. Or, you learn so many things that I don't even realize probably that I learned. But when I went back after having surgery, I had realized that he had slipped, and we were still actively involved in helping him at home. The difference was that I had not been here. and other people who had not been here were helping him with homework. So I cannot tell you how important it is to be here physically, consistently, whether it's a half an hour a week, like you said, but to be here at least once a week, I would say, and to be here at different hours if you can't stay for the whole time block, because they're doing different things during the day, so that you kind of see how the process works, see what you can do at home to help out with what's going on here. But it is so, so important to your child's success. The best thing you can do for your kid is to be here to help them.
And Mrs. Strong came in as well, so she's in that way, Mrs. Strong. she's the other kindergarten teacher as well, so all three of us are here now. So, Mrs. Strong, anything from your perspective on that as well? I mean, Mrs. Strong is a master teacher. She has been at American Heritage starting, is this your 21st year this year? 21 years. So she has been a part of the American Heritage community a long time, you know, and she has seen many, many students come through and knows firsthand, you know, what happens through the years with students that have parental support and those that don't. So,
Hooray. Can you tell us, for the people who we haven't ever been here before, like I see the Book of Mormon readers and the Old Testament readers, can you tell us, like, do the kids bring regular scriptures? Do they do those? Just maybe like some things that we can expect that are different than what we have had in other schools.
and that is a really great question, and that's one of the most beautiful benefits of this school is that the gospel of Jesus Christ can be taught throughout the day, and it can be taught in a simple sentence of what would Jesus do. You know, if you have two children that have a little conflict and you've got to talk with them, you know, you can talk about how would the Savior handle that? You know, what would he do? You know, and that beautiful spirit that you can bring in the classroom that you can't elsewhere is a beautiful benefit that you can't get elsewhere. In kindergarten, students don't need to bring scriptures. We use the readers. We start with the Old Testament readers as we're going along in the timeline, and then when we finish halfway through the year, then we'll go to the Book of Mormon readers and we'll read the entire Book of Mormon reader as a class. And so I'll be reading it to them. They're looking at the pictures. I'll give them cues. Did Arista need to bring scriptures in first grade?
I think
Second grade. I was trying to, it's been so long for me now that I can't remember. So in second grade, they'll have to have a set of scriptures that they do bring with them as well. And the reason for that is because now, you know, all of the students should be reading, and that they can be looking at scriptures and doing that.
There is, because of the atmosphere, there is such a love and respect for these kids and their classmates that I have not seen anywhere else, which I think is amazing. Even my 9th grader, that's a tough age, and that's will always be a hard age, and there is still a little bit of drama. You would expect that, but nothing like you should see in middle school. They appreciate each other for what they're good at, whether it be the spelling bee or the science fair or sports or whatever it is. It's all appreciated and loved and admired, and I really love that about this school too. You don't have to fit a certain stereotype. You are appreciated for what you are able to be, and that's different for all of us and for every child. So I really appreciate the atmosphere and what comes with it.
This is, for me personally as a parent, this has become our home. Our greatest relationships and our greatest friends are here at school. And I'd be very lonely. We moved here from out of state. If I didn't have the school and the great people that are here at the school, I would probably feel pretty lonely in my neighborhood because I don't know. I don't know. I just want so much more for my children. You know, I want them to be safe, and I want them to be loved, and I want them to know that regardless of what their deficits are in their life, that it's okay. You know, that none of us are perfect, and none of us will ever be perfect. You know, but that we can be loved for our individuality. You know, that's why we have these things up here. We talk about that each of us are an individual. Each of us are different and beautiful in our own way. you know, and that there's a beautiful Christian, the Christian principle of self-government, you know, that we need to learn to be self-governed instead of being teacher-governed. You know, when we're teacher-governed, we don't learn. And when we're self-governed, that's when real learning and growth takes place. You know, our Christian character, you know, and following those individuals along the timeline who had true Christian character, and what were those qualities that made them great and made them wonderful. That's what we want to instill in the children here and help you instill in your homes as well. And hopefully that's already happening in your homes, and that's why a large number of people come here, is because they're looking for a better environment, and an environment where their children can really reach that full potential of where they're at without being told that they've got to do this or do that. You know, so there's everything with the school is amazing. You know, as again speaking as a parent, it's like I won't want my children any other way. And some people are like, well, you'll take them all the way through. And I'm like, absolutely. You know, I'm excited for them to have the experience of middle school and high school here with the teachers that are here. I sat in as a teacher this past year in a 10th grade class, and I was jealous. I was like, I wish I would have had a classroom like this in 10th grade where they could really talk and be open and discuss things, and instead of being lectured to all the time. You know, it's a beautiful place, and we're lucky now that we can go all the way through high school and have this experience with these friends, you know, all these years together. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Any other thoughts of things that we can do, things that you've seen? Mrs. Newswander, this was your first year here at school, and you have students in various grades, and you came from out of state. What did you find worked really well, and what maybe could be improved upon?
Oh goodness. Moving in, the biggest difference that I saw was the communication with the teacher. I thought that worked phenomenally for me and for my son, especially because we came in January, in the middle of the school year.
Which is hard.
Which is very hard because I didn't have this training. That's why I'm here right now. So her constant communication with me was so helpful, and I felt like you know, there was a level of expectation that was expected of my son, that is expected of all the students, and that bar, or that standard is much higher than what we had experienced in other schools. But my son was able to reach it because he knew, and he had the confidence, and his teacher helped him feel that confidence to reach that. Our biggest challenge was the freedom essay. And having not had any experience in other years of studying the Constitution at all, it was his first time really trying to figure out what the Constitution was all about, and having to do it in a matter of, you know, a week. Yeah. And so there were so many tears and stress, and that being said, the curriculum 2 and 4th grade is very project-based, which I as a parent loved, because those projects were very worthwhile and not busy work, but had such a good purpose to them. That being said, he was trying to get used to that with the projects and learning how to pace himself so that he wasn't doing it all at the last minute. And I was also learning that too. But because of the new curve and the frustration, the tears, I felt so comfortable emailing or even calling our teacher to discuss these issues, and she was so helpful and very in tune with his personal needs as a unique student coming in the middle of the year. That made all of the difference, helped him really succeed, and he is so excited about coming back.
And that's so great, because it is hard starting mid-year.
Yeah.
It's really, I had a student that joined our class right the week before Thanksgiving. And, you know, in kindergarten, that's hard. But when I assessed her, I knew that she was bright. She could do this, and it was going to be a learning curve for her. But she could do it, and at the end of the year, she was right up there with everybody else, and, you know, doing amazing, you know. And so even if you come mid-year, you can still have great success.
Yes, absolutely. So that being said, that was probably the one thing that I felt like coming in mid-year, maybe some improvement, that at least I felt from the beginning, I thought, oh, I wish there was somebody that was helping me, coaching me as a parent, kind of with the parent-teacher organization or something, so I understood all the service hours, how am I supposed to do this, and
Hold on to that thought.
Yeah.
There's a parent that wants to put something together that, and we've talked,
Yeah.
and I've talked with her, and I've talked to administration, and so hopefully, the idea is, I guess I can share it because it would be a great idea, and if anyone wants to help her, that'd be great, is as a new parent, a few years ago, they started a mentorship program for new parents, so that when they came in, they would have a friend that was an existing parent to kind of help them through. And the idea was so great, but it didn't quite work as well as I think people had hoped it worked. So there's a parent that just finished up her second year here and has a student that will be in 9th grade and 7th grade and 2nd grade and kindergarten this year. And she has this idea of putting together a booklet or something that talks about all the things that happen in each grade level, so you as a parent kind of know, okay, should he take time off, to be able to come to this devotional or the dance festival or different things, and then within the classes, in 1st grade they do the Abigail Adams celebration and, things like that. So there's this one page, not a one page, but one booklet for elementary and one booklet for middle school and high school that has all that listed for parents, so they can kind of look at it throughout the year and say, okay, this is what's coming up, or this is what's going on. And I told her, brilliant. So,
Yes.
so I talked to administration, and he was like, I think that's great. Have her talk to Jenny Bird, the parent organization. So hopefully she'll get the okay to work on that this summer, because I think that would be so helpful for us as parents.
And then I found too, because I was feeling that, I don't know what's going on, the ins and outs of the school, same thing, like, what are these devotionals? Am I supposed to go to every single grade devotional, or, just, what do I do? What's expected? So all I had to do was, you just simply talk to other parents, and you get so much valuable information from parents. And then Mr. Beckwith is so personable to everybody, and he's very good at remembering names. Impressive that he came and said, oh, Mrs. Neuenschwander, how are you doing? And all I had to say was, I'm a little confused. And he had 3 women calling me. So very responsive.
And he understands. He's a parent too.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty is, there Mr. Hunsaker is a parent here as well. Ms. Jacob is a parent here as well. And so even in administration, they get it. And if they're not a parent, they're probably a grandparent here, And so, we're invested in our children, administration and teachers as well, just as much as any of you are as well, because it's our children that are being educated as well. So.
Well, it's that whole family feel that you talked about too. It's part of you hear it referred to as the American Heritage family, and it's so nice to be part of that because people really do care, whether it's because you're confused or whatever other issues we have. Administration, teachers, other parents are so helpful to help your child and to help you feel comfortable and a part of what's going on here. And that's another thing that has been helpful and that I really love too.
It's a home. It's a home away from home.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You've talked a lot about being in the classroom. So do you just talk to your teacher and say, what are the options that you need for volunteering, or is it all just an individual thing, or do you have room moms, or what's the whole lowdown?
So in every classroom, there will be a volunteer mom, there will be a special events mom, and then there'll be a holiday mom. And each of 4 moms, plural, that will help in certain areas. So volunteer mom would be responsible for making sure that there are volunteers in the classroom and giving us as teachers a schedule. It's helpful to know if we know that somebody's coming in so we can be prepared for them, one, to give them things to do so they're just not sitting here and feeling bored.
So that's a big job.
Yeah, and that can be a really big job.
I'm just feeling that right
So,
now.
yeah. And then special events is also, it's a huge job. It's a huge job because we have celebrations at the end of a lot of the things that we study, and so we do a Winnie the Pooh celebration in kindergarten because that's part of our curriculum. There's lots of things to do. And then the third one was the holiday mom. So for the parties, we do a harvest party. We don't call it Halloween party at American Heritage School. We call it a harvest party. And it's always held on October 31st or that day right around there. We'll do, most of the classes, we'll do a small little pilgrim feast. Well, it's not really small. In kindergarten, what am I saying? That wasn't small. We'll do a pilgrim feast, but then, and in kindergarten, we study the pilgrims much, farther down in our timeline, and so our pilgrim feast is really going to be probably in about March. But right before Thanksgiving, we'll still read stories about the pilgrims and then have pumpkin pie. So, that's also included in there. It always feels like things are going on. So, yes, Mrs. Strong.
Well, and also at the beginning of the year, most teachers will send out a survey sheet and ask, what days could you volunteer? And then we give that to the volunteer mother, who will contact the mothers to
Arrange a schedule. And also, which celebrations can you help with? Can you bring a treat? Can you bring a game? Can you, different things like that. So that will be sent home with every student at the first week of the school year. But there's lots of things to do. So
I found that you're always welcome too. If you have an hour or two, or just randomly not on a day you would normally come, and you want to come and check on your kids in any of the grades, the teachers that we've had, they're always more than grateful to have the extra hands, the extra help to cut, paste, photocopy, record grades, correct papers, whatever. There's always work to do, and they're always so grateful to see you walk through the door. So.
Always so grateful. Well, our time is up. Are there any last questions that you've just been dying to ask? Yes?
About the notebook. Is that the standard kindergarten notebook, and it's the same in each kindergarten class?
Yeah, and so what I did, so this was my first year teaching kindergarten, I used to teach 3rd grade, is I started putting together a notebook for me, and I didn't start it at the beginning of the school year, and I wish I would have, so I need to add a few things into that. But these are the pages that will come home in a child's notebook at the end of the school year, divided into each area with that. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. And every grade has notebooks. So kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, I would assume as well. Mrs. Bills, because you graduated adult.
It's all part of this 4Ring, which is nice to record, relate, research, and what's the one I'm forgetting? Reason. It's so nice, and it helps is so effective in helping the child learn. When they have these celebrations, it's not just a party. It correlates with what they're learning, what they've researched, what they've read about, what they're putting in their notebooks. And then they get to dress up, and they get to eat the food. It's always food from the time frame that they're learning about.
We like food.
We do. We like it, and it is effective because it just helps the child. Remember when I dressed up? Oh yeah, we learned about this, this, and this, and we were able to relate it with our party. It's such an effective way for children to learn, and it's such a great thing.
Well, thank you all for coming. I hope it's been helpful to you, and please feel free to talk to any of the 3 kindergarten teachers right here. You're welcome to ask us questions, or even email us during the summer, or call us, or whatever, anytime. We are here to work together with you. So thank you for coming.